required payments that they were supposed to get. Like what this comes down to is the same thing that took place. I hate to keep going back in dates, but to 2008, right? Like they weren't even properly rating the bonds at that point into the proper status. They were waiting for everybody
Exactly.
to get their ducks lined up in a row, and then they decided it was time to do it. And why are these hedge funds fighting us so hard? Why haven't they given up? I heard people ask this question to me quite a bit on my channel. Well, you got to remember in 2008, we had over 2,000 hedge funds close up shop. 2,000, the most ever happened in 1 year. The average return rate of all hedge funds in 2008 was negative 18.4%. Have fun explaining to Michael Jordan and Sidney Crosby and all your rich investors why you brought them a negative 18.4% return. And I think we can all agree that the problem we're facing today, they're facing today, not us, is much, much, much worse than 2008 because they never fixed 2008.
How's everyone doing today?
I get my man AMC Bigums in here. Let me give a shout out. Great job, Pantheon. Make sure you guys are checking out Pantheon AMC too. But I know my man AMC Bigums just walked in here. Always on time, because anytime he shows up is the right time. How the fuck are you, brother? If you can hear me.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's
I'm
up,
better.
guys?
I'm better now that I'm here hanging out with you guys. Got a bunch of fucking wrinkle brains in the chat. This is fantastic. What's
Oh
going on,
yeah.
brother?
Not much. What are you guys talking
Man,
about?
have you seen this? You seen this ridiculous shit we were talking about? Project Lithium, dude. Can you touch on that a little bit? Pantheon, and we were just kind of going on about Project Ion, how it's different from Project Lithium. Are you able to touch on that right now, or would you prefer to save it for the video?
I haven't done all that much research on it yet. I'm doing that tonight, so I won't have
That's
too
cool. I
much to
didn't mean
say
to
on
put you
it.
on the spot or anything like that.
Nah, you're good, man. I
Wanted to
just
throw
got
it out there
home.
like that. Yeah, Pantheon did a great job talking about it too, brother.
I have to check that out. He always does good work,
As a
man.
matter of fact, yeah, dude. Welcome. I'm glad you're able to make it. What's up, Jackson Hunter? My guy. It's great to see you. Jackson,
What's
how
up,
are you,
big
brother?
dog?
Dude, like I said, we got some real fucking wrinkle brains in here. I am really happy to see that. And thanks for coming out, brother. How's everything going on over there in Cali?
Dude, I'm coolin', man. Just gotta clean up this binger, and I'll be right on AMC Bigums' level. But yeah, I love what you guys got going on. If anybody doesn't know me, I don't smoke pot, so that was a
Thanks,
joke.
man. I'm
But
gonna have to ask you some questions on fucking GameStop and NFTs for sure, man, because there's so much fucking shit happening. Maybe in a little bit here, when you get a chance, you can kind of be to school on the GameStop dividend situation, brother.
yeah, I'd love to.
Cool, whenever you want. But right now, I just want to throw this out there. This might be a little hard for you guys to read. I wanted to show you that this is mortgage-backed securities in blue. This is a chart from the 1950s. I'm sorry, here from the early 2000s through 2022. As you can see, it's at all-time highs currently. This is in the millions of dollars, and that's 2.4 million. So that's the equivalent of 2.4 trillion dollars right there. And then over here, you've got the index from January, which is in the billions of dollars. That's $353 billion for the S&P Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index. I'll give you a quick rundown if you're not aware of what the S&P National Home Price Index is. Basically, since I don't have anything in front of me, I'll tell you simply, it's a 3-month value with a 2-month lag of what's happening in national home prices. And we've had a real steep incline, almost directly up after the stimulus began of 2020. Same thing that we saw right after 2008 when the government started quantitative easing like crazy, and that pulled household equity in real estate, which is this green line, up higher. Okay, so it gave investors, banks, institutions, and Americans more equity. And it pulled it up. Look at how hard and how much assets had to be purchased in mortgage-backed securities. This blue line of mortgage-backed securities is assets owned by the Federal Reserve. In assets. 33% of that is these shitty mortgage-backed securities. even worse than it ever was in 2008. At the time, in 2008, none. $150 billion worth at most. Now we've got upwards of $310 billion worth. This all leads down to the rehypothecations and the synthetic shares and everything that's happening in the banking sector, in the derivatives market, in the OTC market, in the dark pools, you name it, it is being abused into the fucking ground off the backs of Americans. And it's infuriating. It's really infuriating to see this, because the moment, now that the government is supposedly tapering, the moment that the stock market crashes, the value of these mortgage-backed securities will crash, which will cause a lot of Americans and people worldwide, because this is going to be a global real estate collapse, to go bankrupt. And some of them will get to keep their house, but those that have multiple properties will lose every home that they don't use as their primary residence. This is going to cause even more homes go to companies like BlackRock and Vanguard. More farmland to go to guys like Bill Gates. Each while wheat prices are at all-time fucking highs, and corn prices has hit $8 a bushel for the first time in a decade. Does that sound like coincidence, guys? Am I alone here? I'm sorry, brother. I'm having a little lag issue there. I can't quite hear you.
Boss,
Go ahead, bro.
can you slow the chat, man? We got 1,000 people in there.
Only if you all hit the like button.
Be helpful. While you're hitting the like button, go check out Jackson Hunter's page on YouTube and Twitter. Subscribe. You're going to learn a lot about GameStop and AMC. Same thing with AMC Bigums. Go drop a like on AMC. You're going to learn a lot. Same thing with Edward over on Twitter. Edward Britchick, check him out on Twitter without question. And my man Pantheon AMC, doing almost daily videos on YouTube. And they're like long format, kind of like podcast style, so you don't have to be watching the screen the whole time. It's pretty dope.
Doing a little mic check quick. Is it sound horrible, guys?
Thanks, man. Regarding AMC Bigums and Pantheon and other good quality information, we have to share it amongst ourselves so that we can learn as much as possible, and then share it with those that we care about. Because unfortunately, this isn't something that you're going to see on CNN. There's 1,000 people watching. Thank you, everybody here, for your support. Truly, I mean that. When you think about it, CNN Plus has 10,000 fucking users, and there's over 1,000 of you hanging out in here with us right now, sharing this information. I hope Bigums can touch on the digital dollar here in a little bit, because I definitely want to know more about this fucking criminal money exchange coming up here soon. But sharing information with those that we care about is extremely important. So please subscribe, please drop a like, and share one of your favorite videos with some people that you care about, because some of them are going to think you're absolutely fucking crazy. Just like they thought that Michael Burry was crazy back in 2008, 2007, when he was screaming from the rooftops that the housing market is on fire, that mortgage-backed securities and all these other bonds are at risk of collapse. We've got the exact same situation and the same people telling you what's happening, including, a former director of Fitch Ratings Agency, Dr. Marco Metzler, amongst many others. Right here, he's willing to come talk to me, an absolute nobody. Just a fellow business owner, but absolutely nobody in comparison to his level of expertise in the bond market. But he was willing to talk to me and share our knowledge with us. And Jackson Hunter, for example, has had, people like Lucy Commissar on his channel and other great traders giving other advice in the trading markets, not financial advice, but trading in general and in the banking sector. And you got guys like AMC Bigums out there teaching you the nitty gritty behind the stock market and the financial markets and the way that your bank is using your money is the contracts. It's absolutely fucking criminal. If anybody wants to add anything on, by all means.
Oh yeah, just the food inflation right now, like for meats is 13%. are announced by Forbes on March 29th. So
That
it's
we
even
know
higher
of.
now.
I
Yeah,
think
that
that
we
we
know
know.
of.
Think about it, dude. How much have has ribeyes and shit like that gone up at your local butcher shop or your local grocery store?
Oh, dude, Buffalo Wild Wings, like the chicken wings, it used to be cost like 14, now it's 20 something for a bundle. It's like up almost 50%.
You're talking
Price.
chicken. We haven't even seen the worst of
Yeah.
this chicken flu. A lot of people might not know that entire flocks of chickens, 80,000, 100,000 chickens are being put down at a time because one tests positive for an avian flu. A global food shortage is upon us. If you guys take a look at the wheat futures, it'd be like Nutrien, it's off the chain.
The coffee we buy has doubled in price. It's $15.50 for a thing of U-Ban.
It's disgusting, man.
There's a guy on YouTube called the Canadian Prepper. He's got a prepper channel and he sells prepper goods from Canada. And what he's had is he's found out that he can't even get the freeze-dried foods in stock. So he's contacted the manufacturers, and they've told him to even get the main ingredients, the chicken, the beef, whatever it is that goes in it, is over a 90-day period before they'll even have access to those materials to even start remaking those freeze-dried foods and whatnot. The problem with that is most countries in the world only have a 90-day, 3-month food supply. So this just further shows you how things are compounding on each other, not to strike fear and freak people out, but this is just compounding over and over. We've got places in, I believe, in the U.S. the prairies where they were telling farmers to basically take down their crops and get paid crop insurance for perfectly fine crops. This whole thing is just it's spiraling a little bit more out of control, and I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I just want to say, please make sure you stock your pantry. Please take some provisions to make sure, next time you go to the store, pick a couple extra cans up when you're there, put them in
Yes,
your pantry.
yes, it
Yeah.
won't hurt. It's one of those tangibles that can be held on to for a long period of time that will probably appreciate in value. But even more important than that is if it does become hard to find, you're going to be really happy that you've got a couple extra cans of it, as opposed to not. As well as right now, I'm looking at select U.S. crop progress. Now, what that means is how far along are we in the planting season? Everything is behind average and slower than trade expectations. Corn, soybeans, wheat, cotton, sorghum, winter wheat. All of it is below to significantly below. Some, like winter wheat, for example, 53% change from a year ago. Even
Well, and
corn is only 4% planted. Soybeans are only 1% planted, and spring wheat only 8% planted.
I
This is all
grew up on a
from the
sorry, boss.
USDA. Go ahead, brother. That's it. I just want to say it was from all the USDA information, so I'm not just making this shit up. Here it says on the bottom. Go ahead, brother.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you there. I grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan, and I can tell you, what do you need for a farmer? You need fuel. Well, what's jacked up in price? The cost of fuel, diesel, and gas. You need parts for your machinery, almost impossible to get and jacked up in price. You need fertilizer, being jacked up in price. The small farmers are going to have a hell of a time even putting crops in the ground this spring, and it's starting to get a little freaky. But we're not trying to scare anybody here. Just be aware of what's happening, right?
The whole point of us sharing information on YouTube is to educate and inform, and it's not to fearmonger. It's not to influence. It's just to share information we've come across from credible sources. For instance, Chinese agriculture imports of 2022. Barley is down 28%, pork is down 64%, sugar is down 25%, and soybeans is down 4% year over year. Luckily their sorghum's up 27%, but that's not doing a whole lot for them.
Not to mention China started stockpiling food months ago.
And people are running out. There's a sad situation, many videos, which I'm not going to show on this channel right now because people are throwing themselves off buildings and hanging themselves in China. And a lot of it is related to the fact that they're on Communist Party lockdown where they can't leave their homes or they'll get beaten or taken away or thrown in jail. It's a very common thing, and it's unfortunately it's become a common thing, and that's not something that should be the case. That's fucking sad. And I just don't want that to happen to more people. So I think that's the reason that the majority of us are sharing the information that we have. For example, here, the price of corn up $790 for the futures price, 118% increase. Then it looks like the 2-year futures are $1,100, which is a 94% change a year over year.
Yo, boss, have you seen the ships off the coast of Shanghai?
Yeah, brother, I have. But that one guy that posted the maritime pictures actually posted them without removing the leisure vehicles. So
That Dan Collins.
Yeah, he made a. You can share it if you can, but he made a mistake. He didn't, either purposely or accidentally, didn't remove the vehicles that are like pleasure craft. You pull up marine traffic, for example, you can see ships all around the world. You can actually go in there and filter out the vessels. But the fishing craft and the high-speed craft. Passenger vessels as well are not needed for the most part. So you're left with
Yo,
this,
boss.
which is still pretty crazy. Let me go to China. What's up?
Oh, never mind. There's a lag on this thing. I was gonna ask, what is sorghum and what is potash, dude?
Potash is
Various kind of
Molasses.
various kinds of fertilizers and vegetable type products.
Yeah, potassium's it's potash is potassium rich salt, and it's one of the most important ingredients that come into fertilizers. It's basically potassium bearing minerals and chemicals that gets used in agricultural and other applications.
Oh, okay. So if we don't have that, we can't grow fresh foods.
Well, we've got major potash supplies in Canada, and guess who's been buying up all of the previously government owned resources have been sold off to guess who has been buying them over
BlackRock.
China.
Oh,
It's
China
even
also
worse.
picked up all the big potash supplies in South Africa as well when they did the Point Noir dock. It's
potash.
yeah.
Interesting. Appreciate that.
No doubt. Great question. That's the kind of questions we need to answer for sure, because some of these things might seem like just nonchalant to us, but in reality, a lot of people don't understand what other things, what they mean or what their implications are. So I appreciate that. That's good looking out.
Well, then even more important is the potash is actually used for flowering and fruiting.
Flowering of different kinds of vegetables and fruits and things like that for growing the fruit themselves. Look at this right now. I don't know if you guys can see it on YouTube, but I am sharing the marine traffic outside of China, and this is absolutely fucking horrendous.
Are they stuck because they're on lockdown? So manufacturing stopped, plus loading stopped, and all of the above.
Yeah, this is a parking lot.
And what are they? They're locking down for like 7 weeks at a time. Is that right?
Their schedule is probably like messed up since the since the pandemic, when we've seen them basically just sitting there on the waters. uh they're supposed to be like, their whole thing is working on schedule, right? If they're behind schedule, well, how the hell are they gonna catch up?
This is an implemented, a purposely, strategically implemented
Yeah.
issue that's going on here. China has been able to slow down some of the growth in their economy by locking down millions of people without having to raise interest rates or stop easing. China's able to continue quantitative easing at huge pace without having to raise interest rates. How? They just lock people down, don't give them the ability to spend any money. So stores can't sell any goods. There's no activity in the GDP sector there, and supply chain is completely cut off. Sadly, it's going to kill millions and millions of people.
It's yeah, it's orchestrated, man.
Wow. Meantime, killing the
Normal,
U.S.
and I do
dollar.
know this since I am in the transportation and logistics industry. I do deal with this kind of shit every day. I'm not looking off the coast of China every day, but I will tell you that I have looked at this many times and I've never seen it like this. I will tell you that I've looked at Los Angeles plenty of times. Better, not by a whole lot. Not by a whole lot. They've just kind of spread out all the way up and down the coast of Mexico, all the way around to the Gulf of Mexico, and along to the East Coast down to like Florida and whatnot. So they're just getting rerouted, but you've still got, dozens and dozens of ships sitting off of LA. They're not all sitting together. These containers are just keep constantly moving. As a matter of fact, Jackson, any chance you could touch on the GameStop dividend, man? I was really hoping that you could give us a little bit of an update on that for the people that are unaware as to what's going on with it, where we stand. People keep asking me, like, when is this dividend going to happen? And I know that's not a question that we can answer, but what are your expectations on what we can potentially see? Take a stab at it, because I know you're not a financial advisor, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, so I just want to get some more information from somebody who I know has been studying it every single day, like you.
Yeah, dude, appreciate it, man. So I got word of this, a long time ago. I was in San Diego in a hotel room, and I put up this video about how GameStop was possibly going to do a fragmented NFT via the Wu-Tang Clan's album that dropped in like 2014 that Martin Shkreli bought a copy of for like 1.5 million. And then Pleaser DAO, a decentralized anonymous organization, they bought the album for, I believe, 4 mil last July. A lot of people were theorizing that Ryan Cohen was in on that purchase and was going to basically split that one copy into however many retail shareholders there are for GameStop and use that as the dividend. But I just say that to say that's about when I really started digging into it. So what we know now is they got the marketplace pretty much ready to go. If you go to nft.gamestop.com, it's no longer a beta site. Well, it's still a beta site, but like the URL doesn't have beta in it anymore. And it says coming soon, and you can link your MetaMask or whatever wallet you choose to use. So their marketplace is imminent, which I'm stoked about. And then the most recent announcement was, I don't know, probably a month ago, and they just straight up said they're doing a stock split dividend. So it's a dividend in the form of a stock split. And maybe I'll say it again so people understand that, because it took me a few times to read it. So GameStop wants to issue a dividend in the form of a stock split. Okay, so a lot of times, a lot of blue chips like Apple, Microsoft, Qualcomm, whatever, they'll do a stock split every, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, and they'll do like 4-to-1. So if you had 100 shares, now you have 400 in your account. And it's just a stock split, and then you divide the share price by however many times it was multiplied by, so it all evens out. But the thing with this GameStop dividend, and like Boss said, I'm not an advisor, dude. I like make music and skateboard, so like don't take my word like as.
But also, don't be so fucking humble, man, because you've been studying AMC and GameStop since long before I came around. So thanks for being humble, but that's not necessary. Tell me what you could tell me about the GameStop dividend and the stock split.
Appreciate you, brother. I love you, man. I'm stoked on it. As soon as they announced it, I was jazzed, dude. I was smiling from ear to ear. I made a video like at 1:30 in the morning because that's when it came out, the news, the press release. So basically, they're gonna vote on it in June at their annual meeting. We don't know the date, but we do know it's June. via their SEC paperwork that they filed. I think it was a 10Q, whatever it was. And so they're going to vote on an authorization to be able to have 1 billion shares. So I think right now they have authorized amount 300 million shares. Now, obviously, they only use about 73 million, whatever it is, for the shares outstanding. But I think they're currently authorized for 300,000. I could be wrong on that. But the vote wants to increase their authorized shares from 300,000 to 300 million to 1 billion. There's a lot of numbers involved. I've been up since January 28th last year. So they're asking for an authorization. They're asking for permission to increase the authorization of shares, which is no big deal. It's, to me, it's not like a dilution or anything like that. And then while they're doing that, they would do a stock split. They haven't announced if it's going to be 3-to-1, 4-to-1. I have an idea it's going to be in that range, but they haven't announced it. So say you got 100 shares and it's 3-to-1. Okay, now you have 300 shares in your account. And those extra 200 shares were the dividend, okay? And now when you're short a stock, this is something a lot of people know, but then again, we got ranges from beginner to advanced in here, so I'll just say it again. If you are short a stock, you pay the dividend to whoever you shorted the stock to, okay? So whoever you short sold it to. And just to go back a little bit further, I think it's really good to talk about the fundamentals of the stock market. So short selling, you're borrowing a stock and you're going to sell it to buy it back at a later date. Now, if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, there's a reason for that. Because what else can you sell before you buy? Like you'd get beat up doing that anywhere with anything. So basically, they're going to vote on it in June. I have a feeling that everybody's going to be in favor of the dividend. I think everybody just wants to get these shorts off their back. And I think if GameStop issues the dividend, I think it will force a lot of shorts, if not all of them, to close their positions, thus increasing the share price of GameStop astronomically. And I also think it's going to go over into AMC. And that's, I talk about that a lot on my channel in depth, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but that has to do with they're both being shorted through ETFs. They're both being shorted through options chain. They're both being shorted by the same institutions. That, in my eyes, that's the main thing. If you look at the top 5 institutions shorting it, there's an 80% overlap. Okay, so if the shorts are screwed on GME, they're likely going to be screwed on AMC. That's how I see it. That's how, those are my conclusions from conversations I've had with real stock market veterans. And so I'm not just pulling this out of my behind. This is from, like Boss said, I have been researching this for over a year. But, I think the GameStop dividend is the end all be all, but there's one way to find out, right? And, I think Boss is talking about this executive order, which I think he's smack dab spot on. And, that could do it too. But people are focused on different things, right? So I'm more focused on the blockchain.
Bring it all on, right?
Bring it all on, dude. Like honestly, somebody in my chat, like we were just talking about it, like how the short squeeze could come about, and I responded with, any way the short squeeze happens, I'm fine with. Honestly,
it's gonna happen one way or another.
Yep.
We've just got so many fucking compounding issues that there's no way that we're gonna get to the other side of the road here without getting hit by something. In my opinion.
Hey, Jackson. So basically, by the way, nice to talk with you, Jackson. This is Pantheon. So it sounds like we're just being really nice to these hedge funds and we're giving them a choice. They can either buy the stock to close their positions, or they can buy the stock somehow if they can find it to cover the dividend requirement. We're letting them have 2 choices here: buy the stock or buy the stock. Am I right?
yeah. Which, hey, appreciate that, Pantheon. Nice talking to you as well. Also, I just subscribed to your channel, so everybody watching my live stream, go to Pantheon on YouTube. He's covering what we're covering, so subscribe to Pantheon. But yeah, that's how I see it too. This is leading to one ending. It's like a video game where it leads to one ending. Like we were in a maze for a long time, but you either have to buy the stock or buy the stock. That's how a short fund, and that's why I talked about the fundamentals, because that's what happens at the end of a short. You eventually buy it back. You know, like just for example, the Big Short in the housing crisis '08, Michael Burry, he only made, by the way, he only made like a 500% profit on that play, but he goes down as like a legend because he was playing with so much money, and I think he saw it beforehand. But in any case, when you short a stock, you have to buy that stock back eventually. It's not like I'll just, never cover that, never close my position. You have to close that position. The only way that you don't is if the company goes bankrupt. And GameStop is obviously not going bankrupt, at least not anytime in the foreseeable future. AMC, dude, I've been in the movies like 3 times in the last month. It is popping. Every single time I go, people are in the seats and people are buying food, right? So like, and people don't even care. Like, that food is expensive. Like, let's be real, it is. But people buy it anyway because it tastes good, it's convenient. So AMC's business model is great. And Pantheon is right. It's like, you can either close your position tomorrow, the day before 420, and everybody can burn it after the squeeze, or you can wait till you're forced to close because you don't have the cash to maintain your position.
Inevitable.
Yeah, listen to Cash, man. Don't listen to me. We're all saying it. It's like, I talk to my mom every once in a while about this play because she's invested in it too. My mom is the greatest person in the world. And like, and sometimes I'll joke to her, like, because I'm her youngest, and sometimes I'll joke to her. I'll be like, "See, Boss Blunt said this," or like, "See, Trey said this." It's not just my dumbass saying it. It's like we've all been studying this shit like a fucking, sorry for cursing, guys, like a group project. But in college when you did those group projects and you hated it, and I was always the slacker, by the way. I was the guy that everybody was pissed at.
Not this time. Not when it counts.
Yeah, but that's my thing. Like, everybody's studying, quote unquote, this group project, like they're trying to get an A++, and then we all come together, like forums like this, which are awesome. We should do this once a week, if not more. And we all negate the wrong answer until we get the right one. And to be honest, like, I've been documenting this not just on my YouTube channel, in other ways as well. And we always come down to the right answer eventually. Like, in the beginning, Bigums and Astro, we were on a call, this is literally 12 months ago. My first time ever talking to Bigums and Astro. I think we were talking about like PFOF. And I didn't even know what it was. And then we learned that, right? And then we learn you can hide SI in the options chain. And then you learn you can, gamma can happen if you buy at the money or just slightly out the money calls. You just continually learn, and then you learn continuous net settlement, and then you learn ATS, and then you learn, oh, is there a secondary book? And there, like, the rabbit hole has no end. I promise you that. And that's honestly one of the reasons I'm done with the market after this play ends, because they wrote this rule book so long, so convoluted, so complicated. They probably don't even know the rules anymore. Like, honestly, that should be my next video for tomorrow. It'd
be a good one.
It's just so convoluted, but they do that because it takes the common man a long time to figure it out. But guess what? A bunch of motherfuckers on the internet figured it out.
We've all been working full time over here, working together, each in our own way, and then sharing the information that we have with each other and collaborating and trying to do, more information. And I'm with you, man. I did the exact same thing. I showed my mom a video of Dr. Marco Metzler and, tweets from Michael Burry and shit like that. Like, this is natural for people that know you to be kind of, unaware as to if they know you well. As I like to say, people that have money in the stock market know exactly what a short squeeze is. So when you explain the situation, they understand it easily. But people that do not manage their own stocks or haven't for a long time are unaware of the market mechanics and don't understand the situation, therefore don't see the bigger picture and the possibility of such a crazy short squeeze happening because of all the illegal synthetics and market manipulation that occurred throughout the decades. So it really helps to be able to show somebody videos or tweets or books about recent information that you've learned in order to share it, because sometimes they just don't want to hear it from you. Maybe on their free time, they'll go and they'll watch this video for 5 minutes or an hour or two, and it might change their life. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
And just to like go off of that, like everything in life is about timing. So like if somebody's not ready to learn this information, maybe the timing's just not right. So like, you know, I don't even talk about this play in real life. I just keep it to YouTube. But like if anybody ever wanted to learn it, like I'm an open book and you can pick my brain all day and I will tell you everything that I know, because I believe this is the greatest opportunity to achieve financial freedom ever. I mean, just think about this for a second, dude. Like I don't have a boss anymore because I am my own boss, which I'm very grateful for. But I used to work such terrible jobs that I hated, and my bosses hated me, didn't pay me good wages. You know, everybody does this, right? And like, just compare doing that until you're fucking 65 years old, and you got 10 15 years of your life left for just to go to Hawaii for a couple months out of the year. It's like, screw that, dude. I'm trying to live now. I'm trying to do what I want now. Like I was gonna
And
make
with inflation as bad as it is, we've got to get fucking rich or die trying.
Yeah, dude.
As far as I'm concerned,
I've already lived out of my car, man. It's like there's nothing they could scare us with. Absolutely nothing, dude. And like I'm passionate about this because I know there's a lot of individuals just like myself. Maybe they're currently working a job that they hate. Maybe they're currently addicted to drugs or alcohol like I was in my early 20s. Life can suck, dude. But when you have that financial comfortability where you're not sweating about money all the time, you can finally focus on what actually matters in life. And it's like I get emotional because it's so many people in the US are in the lower class and they don't have to be. They got like master's degrees and they're like completely competent individuals that could help a business, but their bosses pay them $15 an hour just because they like big profit margins. So, I'm against the traditional job template, whatever you want to fucking call it. And I'm all for
9 to
people
5.
going after what they
man.
want and just going after it and getting it, man. Like just do what you want. Like I swear to God, if that means quitting the job that you hate tomorrow, do it and figure out a way to make it work. Because you will. If you have that in your mind that you're going to make it work, you will. Trust me, dude. And so that was just a tangent, but
no, it was great, dude. I always tell people that long ago, one of the best things that ever happened to me, I got fired from a job. I said that was the last time I would ever have a job that I could get fired from. That's when I became my own boss. Best day of my life.
Yep.
What
Hell
up,
yeah.
boys? What up?
What's up, Randall?
Brother.
Yo, what's up, Randall?
And
What's up?
fashionably late as always.
That's
Always
all right.
on time. When Randall Cornett shows up to school us.
Not schooling here.
Fucking peons.
No, you
I
guys are
love
way
it.
smarter than I. But I get everything that you guys are saying resonates with me. It pulls on all my heartstrings. But also, I want to say that like work's a 4-letter word, and not many like it. Everything that you guys are saying to me makes mad sense, but it also comes with having the drive to do what you need to do, right? So when we talk about like being self-employed and shit like that, one of my biggest, like, because I am self-employed, one of my biggest problems is sometimes there is a part of me like that feels like I kind of wish that I had not a boss per se, but somebody tell me that, hey man, like you got to wake up at 6 because if you don't wake up, you ain't making no fucking money, or you got to be doing this or this or this. And I think I struggle with that. Like I don't know if I'm the word would be
Not
like
alone.
Mentor.
Not
yeah.
alone. That's the hardest part. Every day is just making sure you've got that motivation day in, day out. Whether you're getting beat up, whether you're getting beat down, in life, in business, it's extremely hard to stay motivated, and that's one of the things that you really have to work hard and to stay on top of every single day, because it will take you down before you know it. So yeah, you're right. You've got to do it. You've got to try to maintain a good balance while you do so, because otherwise you burn out. And if you burn out, you don't necessarily want that. You want to give yourself a little bit of a break every now and then. So
I think that's super important, that balance. And then also, I agree with you guys too. I think like I'm a big person that's really like against college. Not that I'm against education, but I think that like colleges and shit are like a fucking scam and rape motherfuckers.
It's
But
not for
also,
everybody.
right.
Yeah.
But what I will say though
No.
is that I definitely wouldn't want to somebody that never went to school like operating on my heart, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a double-edged
Right.
sword.
Well, that's the case. You know, unfortunately, I think we could all agree that the way that the current school system is set up with for-profit education and private colleges and, 30, 40, 50-year student loans that stay with you till you die that you can't get out of via bankruptcy is an absolute fucking scam. Yes. Do we need people to go to college to become doctors and lawyers and all that good stuff? Absolutely. We need other people to go to trade school? Yes. And then we also need business owners and other people to work as entrepreneurs, and in the gig economy as well. So we need everybody, but the current system is set up for us to fail, whether it be 30-year mortgages that the Federal Reserve is now talking about increasing to 40-year mortgages, or student loans that you can go bankrupt, but you still have to pay back because they're, not federally insured.
That's like a mortgage without a house.
Kind of, in a way it is. And like I said, I think it's much more of a systemic problem than I think it is like an individual college. I think it's the way that we built it all up. And I might lose some traction here in terms of like people supporting me, but like I'm actually a believer. Like I think jails, like private jails, are the same kind of fucking thing. I think they're a big fucking money grab. And part of me is like, I believe, yeah, and
That's
like
great.
there's part of me that's like, and people are probably not going to agree with this, but I like welcome like some chain gang shit. I think if you are going to be a criminal to society, your ass needs to go to fucking work. Like we're going to make it where your hands are bleeding kind of shit. You're going to fucking build roads. You're going to do X, Y, and fucking Z. And that's just part of the, what comes with you being a fucking criminal. And I'm not saying like somebody that was like on some weed charges or some shit, but if you're like, you're a murderer, or you do like, or you're fucking people, you know what I mean?
You could pick one politician or banker, or just one person in general, Randall, to go to jail for their crimes, allegedly. Who would you pick?
I mean, without trying to make the public love me, but I think Ken Griffin is a prime candidate. I think he's
Lock
a
his
very
ass up.
no. I think
And
he's
the
a
crowd
prime.
goes wild.
No, I think he's an example of how money and like greed and shit can benefit you in a way that's like not healthy for everybody else. And it's like all these guys, it's because their pockets are getting fucking lined, right? They're okay with it, or they turn a blind eye, or like see, like the thing is like Gary Gensler, it's like part of me hates this motherfucker, then part of me loves him in a sense. But I also know this guy, his hands are so fucking tied. Like the truth of it is like, so I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Yeah, right. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, the actions he's taking, right? Like, you stand up for the people, blah 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 blah. But when you got people that have fucking a noose, so like literally like a noose on you, it makes things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, but who is the real villain? The banks, the market maker, the Fed.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys that are, and that's what pretty much Boss, Bigums, Edward.
Right? Think higher level.
Yeah, we've all been screaming this from the rooftops. Is like, hey, this is not like the way I think about this is like, and I'm not saying that I'm a corrupt, greedy motherfucker, but money changes people. And so if I was like a hedge fund and I was given this sort of rope, I don't know, like, and I'm just being completely honest here, if I would do anything differently than them if that was a rope that they're given, right? You're gonna push the fucking limits. That's just like part of being a business owner. You're gonna try and make as much money as you fucking can. So I have to lay the blame on not their greed, but these motherfuckers that are actually in like putting the rules out there that are allowing the shit to happen. Like this falls on their fucking shoulders. And that's why we talk about like, and I know Pantheon has even spoke on this, is like, hey, we can't, is it really plausible that everybody pulls their money out of the fucking banks tomorrow? Fuck no, right? Like that's probably not going to happen, right? People are in loans and all kinds of different shit with their banks. Could be lifelong members, and like generationally, right? Like could be like going to the same bank that their parents went to. But I also feel like the only way that we really start tagging these motherfuckers, like, at least trading blow for blow, is by fucking up that cash flow. And so that's kind of like, I think Bigums and I agree with on that level, is like, hey, we got to start stripping some sort of money from them, and we can expose it. And Pantheon made a really good point too, was like, hey, like, just saying it is one thing, but like actually what is actionable? Like, what is something we really can do? Is it realistic to believe that everybody's going to pull their money out of the fucking banks tomorrow? Probably not. So if we can start thinking about ways that we can start fucking with these guys, that's going to be a big win for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And not every single person, for example, or one person is going to make the entire difference, but every dollar that's taken out of the abusing banks and hedge funds that are using your pensions and 401ks to invest in Chinese collateral and to short your favorite stocks. If you're not managing your own money, that's something that you need to look into yourself to make the changes you need. Look into, to better your financial future.
Yeah,
Because
every
if you want
dollar.
things to be better, and you know that other people are trying to make it better, why the fuck would you continue to trade on Robinhood if you know they're pushing your order through a dark pool, for example? Why the fuck would you keep your money in a non-self-managed account with Vanguard or BlackRock or U.S. Bank or Bank of America or any of these other assholes if you're not investing it yourself? Because the reason your 401k and pension and IRA and ISA accounts are down is because they're investing your money in this shitty, cheap Chinese fucking collateral and emerging market collateral like they have been for many, many years. And this real estate, as we've shown you with like mortgage-backed securities and everything else being so overvalued, it is not a good outcome when you have this situation, period.
And boss, like you were saying too, every dollar matters, because when you have phase 6 coming up, they're gonna have to start depositing collateral. So any collateral we can take away from them, that matters a major amount.
Dude, phase 5 has been huge as far as CAT system, right? People don't even realize that a lot of what we've been seeing here, we can attribute a lot of the liquidity issues due to phase 5 and CAT system implementation, right?
It's going to get even worse for them because, again, phase 6 comes out. Bigums and I, we even talked about this. Like, everything's going to start being centrally cleared, like through like an actual fucking real middleman that's like going to be like a person that, the way I view this is like, hey, they're checking X, Y, and Z on both sides of these parties. Like, that shit doesn't exist right now, but it's going to. They're working on that. Like I said, and these are something that we talked about, like Point 35 and all these guys. These are like the world's banks are coming together and they're saying, hey, man, there's some fucking red flags that we're seeing and it doesn't bode well for any of us. So we better fucking start putting some fucking checks and boundaries on this shit, or else we're all going to fucking pay. And I think that that's literally what's happening right now. I know people don't care about rulings and filings and all that shit because, people, and myself included, have built up certain things of like, hey, what's going to actually affect us? But I really do believe this is the shit because these are like the main fucking players. When they start getting regulated is where we're going to start seeing some real fucking impact, like changes that are going to, affect the actual fucking price. Like what everybody's paying, like the line that we're looking at. I think the shit is definitely going to encourage some sort of growth that's going to be in our advantage,
Well, yeah, like we were saying, man, this is the unlimited money glitch for these banks. And this is how I think they get away with all this stuff. These bankers are writing these ISDA contracts. Nobody's watching them. And then as we've shown you guys with Iron Mountain, there's 36 fires that all had data fires from banks that were unrecoverable and that were involved with mortgage-backed securities. So they're burning all this stuff to the ground. They're like getting rid of all these traces of all this stuff. So when you finally have somebody watching this, they're not going to be able to do this unlimited money glitch. Like I said, phase 6 is going to be huge. Phase 5 only affected 6% of people.
Bro, you just blew my fucking mind. Say that one more time, bro.
Which part?
How many buildings have been on fire?
It was like 36 or something. I got them all on that video I put up. They're all look up Iron Mountain fires, dude. They're literally killing people. There was 9 people that have died in a fire. They don't give a fuck. Like I said, dude, what they'll do is they write these down. All these master agreements are on paper, so it's just between a bank and a market maker. Nobody sees this stuff, and of course they're gonna approve every single thing. Why wouldn't they? They make money. So right now, this is why I think no margin calls have been happening. All these bankers are just helping. I heard Pantheon earlier, and he's 100% right. They have those 3 options. Either you print more money, but what are you going to say to the people? You have to have an excuse to print more money, and they already don't have excuse for the last 40% of all currency they just printed in the last 2 years. So what are you going to say to us when you have to say, well, we need to print more? You can't do that again, or we're going to revolt. You either, like, what the hell is the other things you said, Pantheon? I can't remember. Sorry, I'm trying to do a couple things here. But like I said, phase 6, though, is going to be the biggest thing that can affect all these banks. And like I said, we need to get as many of these loans out of the derivatives market, because it's all collateral. It's all stuff they're just repackaging over and over again just to use for unlimited collateral. Phase 6 comes out September 1st, by the way.
New phase 6 regulations by the SEC and the DTC, right?
Yeah, yep.
You're asking me, so I wanted to confirm with you.
Yeah, phase 6. So yeah, like right now, so what phase 6 is, all these guys, like we said, for these agreements, there's nobody watching them, and there's what they're using is called a credit support annex as a collateral. So they're not depositing any money. It doesn't cost them anything to open these. Then this is how they can get unlimited shares. If you guys are on Google right now, anyone who's listening, type in overstock lawsuit, sham reset, and then the word Hassan, Hassan. You can go ahead and pull up that lawsuit so you guys can understand this has been in court. We're not just making this up. This is how they've over and over been getting caught. They do inside these agreements what are called flex options, married puts, buy rights, and wash sales. So when you do all that together, you basically just have an unlimited hedge. And this is how they also continuously collect on premiums with these buy rights. And this is why I keep telling people, stay away from these options with these YOLO weekly ones. I mean, if you just play your options smart, trust me, they got all these hedge for, and they really, really, really love your guys' premiums. But what's going on right now, and this is the thing, is so you'll have nobody watching this, and they use the same exact collateral over and over and over to continuously open these ISDA contracts. So like I said, they have unlimited shares, and then when they get too many, if you're, like I said, if you're listening right now, Google Iron Mountain data fires, and then look at how many there are. It's insane how many they have. It's like, if you're a data company and that's your only business, how the hell are you going to continue? And your only business is, yeah, we protect data. How can you have that many fires in your company history? And it goes all the way back to 99.
Wasn't there
2014? Yeah, they're all over the place.
Wasn't there documentation on that TD Ameritrade building that there was a janitor that was doing stuff?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that.
Documentation. Got
That
documentation
doesn't
now.
surprise me though. They slide that guy fucking 3 to 5 million, and they let him take the fucking rap. You know what I mean? It's like, what's that guy? He's like, fuck, I was a janitor.
Yeah, he was like, I heard somebody saying like he was climbing up, like he was on a ladder in the was it the vac system? I forgot what it was, and it was like on fire, and it's like, oh, it's randomly on fire or something. It's like in a movie. It's like a plant that was like a plant deal. It was weird.
Dude,
I don't know
all
where
I
I
know
heard it
is
from.
you don't haul away debris while it's still on fire.
Exactly, and he like it makes no sense. It's like, hey, it's on fire. Like, let me just come down the ladder. Like like what?
No,
Here's
when
the
they were hauling away the debris, it was still on fire in the back of
Yeah.
the trucks.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That's just not how you do it. Unless
Got those files here somewhere from somebody sent them to me, and I should be able to find it. Pretty sure it was one of my guys, Bob, here, but I got so many messages I've got to like scroll up. It's a joke to go get that and find it.
While you're
So I can
looking
bring
for
it
that,
here.
boss, I'll keep explaining phase 6 real quick.
Doing it. But
So what's going on now with phase 6 is you're going to actually now have a counterparty watch the contract being made. They're actually going to watch the deposit happen, and it's going to be a $250,000 deposit per per contract that I was reading. So that's going to be massive. And who's supposed to be watching that, though, is our good old friends at the SEC. But at least somebody is watching this. But
So
like Randall was...
that shit to the
Oh
CFS.
man, I was getting worried there was no one around.
Yeah, so we know at least they got our best interest at heart when they're doing this. So, but like I said, they're not going to be able to have this unlimited money glitch. They're not going to be able to just burn the contracts away when it gets too big. And like I said, this is other thing that this is why no banks have margin called anybody, because the Ponzi scheme's been too big. Too many people have borrowed from too many richer people. The money's gone. They've stolen everything. We've already shown you guys the pie chart, how much currency is left in the United States, how much they have. They have $5 trillion. There's 2.3 trillion going around in currency. They have double all of us. And that, in the last 2 years, they went up 70%. We have 131 more billionaires in the last 2 years in the United States. That's insane. The entire... if you took all 735 billionaires, just what they made in the last 2 years since the start of the pandemic, it could pay off everybody's student loan, and they would still have $3 trillion to their name. Like I said, the system's too messed up. Everything's too funneled. You have too many people. Well, we need more money. We need this, but yet you're finding out that each year they're getting $2-3 trillion in tax cuts in these companies, and then they go, "Well, we don't have money to do this, do that." Well, if you just taxed the rich like you should have, those trillions of dollars already could have covered these programs that they continuously have for recovery that they say they don't have. But yet we have all this money to send to Ukraine in the drop of a second. The SEC sits there and, we can't look into short sellers for years and years. It takes years to build up a case. But yet you find out 2 days ago, we're already looking into Elon Musk. The Doge is already looking in Elon Musk with us. Why is it the second a citizen does what these guys are doing, they're looking at us within a millisecond? All of a sudden, they got the money, they got the funding, they got all the people and the resources. It's kind of crazy, huh? And that's the main thing that... Go ahead.
No, so the way I think about that is like you found out your girl's cheating, right? You don't tell her that she's cheating, but you're like, hey, this isn't gonna work out. You need to get the fuck out of my house. Blah 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 blah. And all of a sudden, she starts showing you the affection that you haven't been fucking getting or you've been needing for the past 2 or 3 fucking months, right? It's like, because now her fucking, like, where she's comfortable, the roof that's over her head is being jeopardized. That's kind of like what's happening. It's like, they're seeing that people are starting to pick up, and when people like Elon Musk get involved in shit, it's like, this is bringing attention to like all the bullshit that we're actually doing, and motherfuckers start to panic, like dead ass.
Yep.
Exposing.
No, exactly,
yeah, I mean,
man.
it's always been lies. Like ever since this, he's like, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough milk. No, they do. They just it's about private funds and all that stuff being behind the scenes. If somebody's gonna give them and present them money, they're gonna act in one day. Obviously. What happened there.
Not to cut you off, but just to build off that, I don't know if you guys remember that, but remember they paid the government paid all those farmers a while back to burn all those crops to control the food price, and next thing you notice, Bill Gates buys up all the farmland. Like I said, they're controlling our entire food, everything.
Yeah, and then there's fact checkers. Like you guys go Google that. You'll encounter a wave of fact checkers saying, the government didn't tell people to burn their farmland and crops. No, they absolutely did. You probably have to search on DuckDuckGo to find that, to actually find the articles.
Yeah, they paid them
everything with Google. Yeah, they paid them.
They paid them. It was, if I remember right, it was 4 times the amount of what they would have made on the crop.
Yep.
And what farmer wouldn't do that when you're working? You guys know how hard farmers work, man. That's the hardest job ever. Of course, you're going to take 4 times profit.
That's disgusting, man.
Oh, yeah. Like we said, man, everything's being controlled by 5 companies, these billionaires. You'll be surprised what they'll do. They'll do anything to stay in control. And that's why these last couple of days I've been showing everybody with the politics. I don't give a fuck. I hate red, blue. I don't care. None of them care about you. Get over it. You guys got to look at where all these big people are spending money. You guys see that Ken Griffin, if you looked at his how much he's putting into the government this year for these midterm elections, it's $40 million. So he doubled his entire amount of the last 2 years. So he really, really, really needs this election. Why? Because everything's coming out. Everything's getting exposed. You got Phase 6 coming up. You got the transparency coming up. You got all these laws that are coming up in ISDA, and he has no control on these laws in ISDA, because even if before Phase 6 was going to happen, Randall put up the other day these proposals that are worldwide. These world banks are saying we need to do this worldwide, not just Phase 6 for the United States. Like, everybody is stealing everywhere. And through ISDA, what they're doing is when a regulator will come in and check it out, the problem is what these regulators are doing, and we have documentation on this. I don't know if you guys have watched any of my videos, but they will call these guys ahead of time and say, hey, I'm going to come on Friday. And they'll call them on Monday, which gives them just enough time. So what they'll do is they'll call up a bank. And the number one bank is PNB Paribas. It's a France bank. If you guys want to look that up, look at all of their violations.
BNP Paribas. BNP Paribas. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're good. Look at all their past violations and read all the common things. It will be about hiding shorts. It'll be about taking all these shares. What they're doing is they're sending them over through these flex options. And you guys can also look, they're doing this on the IMW, on all these ETFs that they're shorting big time as well. And they're sending all of them through ISDA contracts over into Europe. So by the time the regulators come in and check, everything looks hunky-dory, and then they open it for like a 1 or 2 days to contract because they're any term they want. And by the time the regulators leave the next week, guess what? They got all their stuff back. It's like I said, it's a complete joke. But that will stop with Phase 6 as well.
We actually showed an example of January, our initial run at Bigums and I in our first video together. We showed the flex options on IWM and what that actually looks like.
Explain it a little bit if you can.
So they're basically, I mean, well, I guess we'd have to start with what flex options are, right? And so just to piggyback off,
down, brother.
Yeah, we basically flex options give participants that are like, big institutions to create, options that are dated out with custom strike prices and custom dates on expiry up to 15 years. And when we went back and looked at the amount of flex options that were placed, basically in our run up in January, we've seen the amount pretty much triple in the amount of flex options that were actually used. And so it just gives you an idea of how these guys are playing these markets. And again, they're doing this on custom strike prices and custom expiration dates. So they have free reign to do whatever they want. And they'll do things like buy rights, married puts. At the end of the day, what it all turns out to be is it's creating synthetic shares. Like, that's really at its core is the way I take it. And kicking the can down the fucking road.
Seems like everything boils down in the end to synthetic shares, right?
Yeah, and then they say the same thing. Oh, it's to create liquidity for the market. If you ever hear the word it creates liquidity, that means that we didn't have stuff at the time. There was none available, so we made it up to provide liquidity so we can complete the trade.
It's such a fucking joke. It's such a fucking joke, man. The more you learn about it, the sadder it becomes, to be honest with you. But that's kind of what helps, I think, instill confidence is understanding the way that this shit works.
Financial ones.
Oh, Yeller fucking said so. One thing I wanted to bring back up was that lit fire. I've got the case details, the investigation report. The lead investigator, James Barbo. I didn't get it from him, but that's who made this report. My source shall go unnamed. But here's what we've got so far. This is all the information that we've got. And I will state one thing. I start. Initial reports, one of the fire chiefs that was interviewed on national TV, on the news, said that the rack system fell and broke the sprinkler system. I will state that I don't believe anywhere in this 20-page report does it state anything about the rack system failing whatsoever. So this says here that the fire investigation team was unable to layer through the debris for 6 days. Pile roughly 40 feet by 40 feet was left alone by the demolition contractor. According to witness reports, the fire started in a general area near aisle 6 and 7 near the tunnel. An eyewitness saw a spark come from a general area of a unit heater. The rooftop unit was almost directly over the unit heater, and using aerial devices, the rooftop unit was discovered, location marked with a strobe light to keep the demolition company from disrupting a possible area of origin. Layering uncovered the unit heater and the scissor lift that a contractor was using to reach the unit heater. It was determined that the rest of the layering would resume when other insurance investigators would be present to examine. It says that the unit heater was removed to a safer location to prevent further damage. It was tarped and tagged with do not touch signs. The scissor lift was left in place and it was tarped over the same signs. Area where the unit heater was removed, tarped over, and had sign attached to it. And there was video taken by third-party investigator Doug Rayburn. The debris layering video was sought after in interviews of the employees and contractors present. The Bartlett Fire Investigation Team was assisted by Bruce Bernstein of Travelers Company, Doug Rayburn from Rayburn Fire Scene Investigations, and Scott Howell from Howell Consulting. Interviews were conducted at Bartlett Fire Station 3. 2 contractors working for Carey's HVAC located in Tinley Park, Illinois, not too far from me, were identified, and I interviewed at the Bartlett Police Department by Bartlett Fire Investigator Ackerman and Police Detective Cianco. The owner of the company was also interviewed. They were subcontracted by Comfort Systems USA, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, via their Tinley Park, Illinois location. An interview conducted with an Access employee. For those of you that are unaware, Access is the company that owns the building, or is at least leasing the building. We believe that Access is partially owned by BlackRock and other companies, including, we'll get there later. An interview conducted with Access employee Marco Lopez was crucial. I'm trying to keep this informative and not add hyperbole, so let's try that. Mr. Lopez stated that he saw a spark come from the area where the contractor was working, and within minutes, there was smoke coming from a storage rack 2 aisles over. Mr. Lopez was at the same height at the top level as the contractor, so he was on a scissor lift at a higher level. Mr. Lopez was facing the contractor while the contractor has back to him. Within minutes, there are 2 more Access employees who saw or heard the sprinkler system activate, where Mr. Lopez saw the fire and the sprinkler activation. Nothing about it getting knocked down yet. Mark Bernanke, the HVAC contractor, was working on the heater. He stated that he removed a 24 gauge hot wire, which he believes came from the thermostat. He performed this action instead of using a breaker or the switch located above the unit. It is unknown where the spark originated and where it landed. Now, let me add a little bit of a hyperbole here. But would you not believe, guys, that maybe using the breaker or the switch located above the unit to turn off the power would probably be the recommended way to remove a power source so that you can't get electrocuted before you work on it? Would that be safe to say, you think?
Yeah.
Pantheon, what do you think, brother?
Oh God, I'm so happy that you brought this up. I mean, these fire retardant systems have redundancies built in. It's all part of mechanical building codes. Nobody with the half a brain would try and work on a live wire without turning it off. Wow, I'm so happy you put this up.
So this is directly from this report. This is on page 2 of the Bartlett Fire Investigation Report from Bartlett Fire District. Investigator James Barbo. Okay, and this case is now supposedly closed. And this began on February 9th and it ended on February 11th, it looks like. Well, those 2 dates are backwards, so I would assume that maybe he made a mistake there. Let's go back to where we were. So it's unknown where the spark originated and where it landed. However, we do know that a hot wire that was not supposed to be removed from the thermostat before turning off the breaker or the switch located above the unit was in fact removed. Now, moving onwards. And for those of you that are unaware, which is probably the vast majority of people, my first major was fire science and fire investigation way back when, many years ago. Mr. Lopez was interviewed on February 5th, 2022. Okay, he usually works at the Access building from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., but he arrived an hour earlier on February 3rd, the date of the fire. He continued to say that all his orders for picking were located in aisle 8. He stated that he knew there was a contractor there to fix a heater. When asked where the heater was, he stated in aisle 8. Mr. Lopez did not know what type of heater. He stated that there were 2 types of heater that hung from the ceiling. When asked, Mr. Lopez stated that they were over the aisle in the center. He was asked if it was in aisle 8 in the morning. He stated the entire morning he was there. When asked what aisle contractor was working, he said aisle 8, etc. You get the point. If he had left or gone away, Mr. Lopez stated, I did go to the break at 8-ish or closer to 9 in the morning. Mr. Lopez continued to say that when he came back from break, the contractor had the center tunnel closed off, but I had to still pull orders. The tunnel is an access aisle that runs perpendicular to the storage aisles. It has documents storage above a certain height. Mr. Lopez continued to state that it wouldn't be an issue because it was on the other side of the tunnel, which is the same aisle, but he had continued to pick orders from the front. He was on the opposite side of the tunnel, but in the same aisle as the contractor. Mr. Lopez confirmed that he was between the tunnel and the offices. I'll move forward a little bit further because it's more confirmation. Mr. Lopez stated the contractor was towards the back of the building, but right at the entrance of the aisle from the tunnel. There was a rough overhead drawing of the building on a dry erase board. It can be viewed on camera. There's also a picture of the drawing with the person who drew it. Mr. Lopez denied speaking with the contractor. He stated that after his break, he walked down aisle 7, where he took a left and found the tunnel had been blocked with a retraceable barrier. He was going to pick his orders, etc. Let's get down a little bit further. He was working on the heater he was talking about in reference to this guy. Mr. Lopez said, I'm not a professional, but he confirmed that he was picking at level 12, that's the height, which is the top highest level. When asked what he saw the contractor doing, Mr. Lopez ruled out the use of soldering and cutting pipe, so he was not doing anything that creates sparks. Mr. Lopez continued to say it looked like he was either turning a wrench or a screwdriver. What could he have been removing? A hot wire. Mr. Lopez stated that the contractor had a bag with him, but didn't have any lights. He denied seeing the contractor using anything else other than small hand tools. Mr. Lopez continued to describe the orientation of the contractor to himself. He said, I guess he switched something on that kind of made a spark. It sounded like it was kind of like a good thing, like the heater came back on or something. I don't know where he looked to his right, my right as well, and then he faced towards the right, and then he said fire or flames or something like that. He was still kind of a couple feet away from me, but I could still hear that he said fire or flames or something like that. I could hear what he said. I did not have anything in my ears, so everything was kind of clear. I went to look at that direction, what he was saying, and I saw little smoky flames, little smoky flakes, like red flakes on top of aisle 7. When asked if it was on top of 7, but on the side of 8, Mr. Lopez stated, exactly, directly where he was at, just on the other side of 8. I mean, on aisle 7, just same location, just aisle 7. Mr. Lopez was asked, when you saw the embers, did it look like a spark or an arc? Mr. Lopez answered, it almost looks like you put out a fire and there are still red flakes in there, kind of like that. I believe he's describing embers. Now, he continues to say, quote, almost like it was barely starting. Mr. Lopez was asked if he ever burned paper or cardboard. He stated no, but he had seen people burn bonfires. Mr. Lopez stated, yeah, like red flakes on top of a fire, when he was asked if it looked similar to that. He was asked if this was happened after he heard the sound with the furnace, and he replied, yeah, after I saw something go off. Mr. Lopez was asked about the sound being similar to the heater firing up, and he said, yeah. Mr. Lopez was asked about the timeline of the heater starting and what he saw. Mr. Lopez said within 5 seconds. I had walked out of the room, and upon my return, Investigator Ackerman told me that within 5 seconds of the heater turning on, the contractor and Mr. Lopez had noticed it. I asked Mr. Lopez about the embers, and he said they were bright red. I asked if they were like a sparkler, and he said literally it was like a fire. Just not like the start of it. Mr. Lopez was asked about smoke, and he replied it was like white smoke. He stated, my reaction wanted to drive towards that way, but I didn't know what was over there or what had actually happened. So keep in mind that I'm on a lift, a scissor lift, that doesn't go fast when I'm on level 12. Where was I here? So I have to lower myself, but my instinct was just to lower myself and keep looking to see what's going on. This is amazing. Excuse me. I can't believe what I'm reading here. I thought I had read it, but I must have missed this part. He goes on to say, and then in a matter of seconds, the fire flames were, Mr. Lopez responded, all the way to the ceiling. Mr. Lopez was asked if they were spreading out over the ceiling, and he replied, yeah, and he showed his hands spreading outward. Mr. Lopez confirmed he was at level 12, the top level, and the flames, he said, were up towards the ceiling within a matter of seconds. Paper doesn't burn that fast.
No, that sounds like an accelerant.
Hey, boss, I got something for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me put it in ape chat. This is a video of how thermite burns.
What happened actually after that, Mr. Lopez said, was the sprinklers turned on and he started lowering himself down as fast as he could. When asked if the contractor was trying to put the fire out before the sprinklers, he stated, never tried to. Mr. Lopez stated he did not see a fire extinguisher with the contractor. Mr. Lopez stated he just lowered himself down. He stated that the sprinkler of aisle 7 was the one that activated. Mr. Lopez stated that it was the one directly over the fire. He stated it actually turned off quickly. When asked if the sprinkler turned off, Mr. Lopez said, no, the fire went down. As soon as the water hit it, it turned off. Mr. Lopez stated that his supervisor had yelled, come down and evacuate the building. Mike told Mr. Lopez to come down. There's a fire. Let's see that video of thermite.
It's at a 1. It starts at around 134.
Is that an ape chat?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It starts around 140.
Yeah, that's the description of an accelerant. That's not paper catching a spark.
Yeah.
How do we have a fire go from being embers to spreading outward to to height level 12, the top level of this location?
Look at the question. It's exactly what happens. Starts to smoke and ignites like instantly.
The crazy thing is that at that point, mute this video real quick here. Great, man. Thanks so much for sharing this. Perfect. See here. So at this point, we know that now he said the fire was out and the sprinkler turned off. So Mr. Lopez confirmed he was speaking of Mike. Mr. Lopez said Mike to notify, that's the supervisor, to notify the other contractor. They started leaving after warning the other contractor. They walked towards the offices where they met Rudy by the processing center. He replied, I saw the guy working on the furnace, and when he switched it on, there was a spark, and aisle 7 on top lit up on fire. End quote. So that's pretty much everything. Hang on one second. Let me see here.
So he had a bag with him that had nothing, that they didn't know what was in it?
Just basic tools. Like, they didn't know what was in it. He claims there was just basic tools in there.
I mean, basic tools enough to make him thermite. That probably is. Because you don't need that many tools. You just need powder. You just need powder. Like, you need powder and ignition tools.
Mr. Lopez was asked about the flow of the sprinkler, and he said it was a wide pattern. He asked if there was heavy flow. He said yes. He stated he did not know where the contractor went after the fire started. He stated that he went with Mike to the other contractor, and they had to yell at the other contractor because the scissor lift was too loud. The contractor started coming down where they left. Mr. Lopez then said he exited the building through the office. He couldn't see or hear the sprinkler anymore now. Asked what smoke was doing the last time he looked, he replied the smoke was moving to the east and going towards the ground. We thanked Mr. Lopez for his time.
Did you say the lift was too loud? Is that what they said?
They're not that loud.
The hell?
Just since most of them are electric.
Yeah,
this-
exactly.
Aren't that loud.
This all fits a thermite scenario. Like this literally, this literally
Any
fits.
sort of accelerant, right? Any sort of
Yeah.
accelerant could have played a role here.
Yep.
The fact that this is just case closed, everything's normal, is pretty weird here. See here, Mr. Grazer also was interviewed. He stated at the time there was no smoke. He can hear the scissor lift beeping, but doesn't know if it was moving backwards or beeping. There was no, or if the beeping just signifies movement. Mr. Grazer states that once the beeping stops, he will get off his lift and move the rope barrier. He saw smoke in front of him and to the left. He states there's no smoke to the right. He didn't see any flames, but saw embers traveling with the smoke. He was describing the tunnel height and said the first continuous shelving across level 5. Mr. Grazer stood up and said the tunnel was similar to aisle between the tables in the training room. He was at, anyways, he was using body language to show
embers.
Mm-hmm.
He said embers traveling with the smoke.
That's
The
what he
hell? That's all. That's literally thermite. That's literally what thermite does. Travels with the freaking smoke. Like it sparks up and it starts to bust.
This in this video? Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, look how when it ignites, right? It sparks. Look, that's exactly what it does. That's the embers. That doesn't happen in a normal fire. Those are the embers coming out of the combustion. Like it's just basic like physics and science. It's so stupid. Like this literally proves that what they use combustion. Like it's the strip like
any water.
physics and
He
science.
believed he saw water in the aisle, but said it looked like water was coming down. Not any kind of deluge, but the smoke was heavy, like it was being pushed down. He said that he thinks the push in the smoke was from the sprinkler system. He believes he did not smell any smoke prior to seeing that. So we know at this point that the sprinkler system was working just fine. And from the looks of it, Mr. Shaw says, let me see, Mr. Shaw states the contractor came at him and said, I don't need you to tell me how to drive this thing. Mr. Shaw replied back, in this warehouse, I'm the boss, and you have to respect me, and you have to do what I say. Mr. Shaw then started to direct him like an airport worker directs a pilot. Mr. Shaw explained that the floor had boxes out for destruction, and that they were going to be picked up, which left a lot of clutter that morning. He directed him to aisle 8, told the contractor to wait. Okay, moving forward. King who has to tell someone that he's a king is not much of a king. The contractor did not return between the last visit and on February 3rd. Mr. Shaw states that due to being a security facility, contractors can't just walk around, and they just don't trust anyone with equipment because if you hit a rack, the whole place is going down. They don't trust contractors. Okay. Mr. Shaw looked over at the heater and saw it was still going and the contractor was up there. He states his work phone notified him of an email, so he went to check it. After sending a reply, Mr. Shaw states that he heard beep, 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 horn, 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 and thought, what's going on? And that maybe one of the staff members was going down that aisle and just tried to tell him. Mr. Shaw states that he knows what the forklifts sound like. I asked him if it was yours, and Mr. Shaw said no, it was a lift. I asked who, he said the contractor with the European accent. I asked the one in aisle 8, Mr. Shaw said yes. Okay. Mr. Shaw states that going towards the break room, there's a pull station. He thought about pulling. He states that before he could move, the sprinkler burst and started pouring down anyway. He continued to say that's when everything became black smoke. He said that he knew that's when it became serious. This has gone serious very fast. Stated that he started screaming, fire, fire, get out, get out. He stated he ran into the office and started screaming, fire, okay, get out. He said that again. And when the sprinklers kicked on, the fire alarm went off. Mr. Shaw states that Rudy went out to check, maybe they hit a strobe. He states that Rudy went into the warehouse and Mr. Shaw followed him. Mr. Shaw states that smoke had already started filling up the record center. That he started walking towards the processing center, looked over and saw the guy, the European tech that was working in aisle 8, come down from his scissor lift real slowly, and he said, I'm going to my truck. He was asked when he first saw the smoke, what color was it? He replied, white, like a whitish gray. Mr. Shaw described the smoke movement like someone coming out of the shower and steam escaping. He was asked about the slow speed of the contractor's scissor lift. He stated it seemed slow, that he'd never been in a fire before, and it was really freaking him out. Huh. Mr. Shaw did say he saw black smoke high in the ceiling and it was too thick to see anything else. He states that he thinks once the sprinklers activated, some of the lights went out. When the sprinkler dropped, it looked like a ton of black smoke started coming from that area. Why would lights go out? Because of a hot wire that is improperly grounded or creates a spark by touching something metal, something it's not supposed to. There's 20 pages worth of this here. Okay, this guy denies seeing any smoke.
And what was kept in this particular?
I know here that this other guy, Mr. Vanderbeest, works there as well, and he said, let's see here. He told me something about this guy. I saw this guy ran up to him. Mr. Vanderbeest stated that at aisle 6 or 7, he saw Marco coming towards him, and he started walking towards Marco. He stated that he could see smoke at the ceiling. Mr. Vanderbeest stated that smoke was yellowish, moving or pushing from left to right. States the smoke is 4 to 5 feet down from the ceiling. States that Marco told him he saw a huge spark and then saw a smoke started. Mr. Vanderbeest said he told Marco to leave out the front door, and he thinks he was in aisle 7 and went to aisle 8 because that's where they were working. His team was accounted for and out of the building. He was looking for the contractors. He stated the contractors climbing out of the stowed scissor lift. He stated that the smoke is coming towards him, but it's still high. He states he's walking slowly toward the contractor, saying, "Come on, what happened?" He escorted the contractor to the main door. To the man door. He doesn't remember the second contractor saying anything and said he escorted the contractors out of the door. He went back through the building and exited out the front door. As he was leaving, he said he saw smoke moving towards the front, but it was still high. Then we've got Sam Pappas. He's had a voluntary interview. He owns Carey Heating and Cooling. Stated his company was contracted by Comfort Systems USA to evaluate the HVAC. He stated that Chris Styrzula has been working for him for 11 years, and Merrick Bernacki has been working for him for 6 months. Both employees were on site February 3rd, 2022, to perform work that Merrick quoted on December 15th, 21. Pappas stated that he worked to be concluded, including a model line heater and loading dock. Needed a fan, motor, blade, and capacitor replacement. He said aisle 8 also had a model line heater that needed lots of parts to replace. All parts were okay. Pappas stated that employees called him to notify of the fire that was happening. His direction to Chris and Merrick was to remain on scene until released and then return to the shop. We can pretty much leave it at this here and just pretty much go all the way down to the bottom. Here, Lieutenant Lane stated the suppression system was shut down after an unknown period of time to deploy an oversized fan in an attempt to ventilate the building. He stated the crew made it to what they thought was the road they needed to advance. Hose down and they heard a collapse. He speculated that it was boxes falling off the racks and possibly heard a rack system collapse as well. Lieutenant Lane believes he heard at least one sprinkler operating at this time. Lieutenant Lane stated the suppression system was shut down after an unknown period of time to deploy an oversized fan in an attempt to ventilate the building. What does this mean? The sprinkler system was working just fine.
Hey, boss.
Go ahead,
I got
brother.
one question, man. How fucking rich are we gonna be?
We're gonna be so fucking rich. Look at everything they have to hide. Look at everything they have to hide.
Nobody's selling this thing, man.
Damn fucking right, brother. Buildings are getting burnt down left and fucking right, dude.
Dude, that whole scenario of the contractor, it's like a movie, man. It's like a movie. Like he just runs out and starts screaming, "Fire, fire, everybody get out." Like somebody did something, like he didn't do anything wrong. Like it's just like, dude, the guy, so I looked up on the LinkedIn stuff on he's a Nordstrom
Yeah.
regional HVAC service, 18 years and 9 months of HVAC experience.
18 years and 9 months. So do you think that he didn't know what the fuck he was doing? You think he doesn't know how to properly turn off a system?
Yeah, he happens to be the regional Illinois worker that was hired for that.
Oh, oops. Time to destroy some evidence, possibly. Is the contracts like Randall was telling us, right, brother? Yeah, Randall got tired of listening to me. Bigums, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It just fits the description like perfectly well. Like it's uncovering, it's like literally uncovering the biggest. It's like being in a movie. That's what it feels like right now.
And another thing that feels like being a movie is the amount of people that refuse to believe the issues that we're having with housing prices.
Well, yeah, dude. Speaking of the housing crisis, before you get into that, quick, boss,
record highs. The average American home is over $500,000. Average American home price right now. Real house prices adjusted for inflation have steadily increased since 2012. Basically since quantitative easing began. And at some point, a bust or a housing correction has to occur here.
Hey, boss. So,
go ahead, brother.
So apparently, you remember how they were talking? The feds were saying they're going to start selling off $98 billion.
$98 billion worth of assets off their balance sheet for the Federal Reserve, right?
Second they did that, they said that they've already bought another $40 billion in mortgage-backed securities. So they're going to start selling off. What they're going to do is they're going to start selling off other assets. They're going to keep buying mortgage-backed securities. What I think they're going to do is try and hold the housing market up as long as they can until midterms. And after that, they're going to have to let it crash. They have no choice. Otherwise, you're going to end up having the feds own 70% of these mortgages at this point in the United States. It's just ridiculous.
Now, is a crash like necessarily good for us because you can buy houses cheaper?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're gonna. Well, what's gonna end up happening is because nobody can afford this. Inflation's still going up. They're trying to raise rates. Nobody's gonna buy a house when the average is 500,000. Nobody can. You got people. How many people? I can't remember the percentage. Yeah, I can't remember the percentage I put up, but there was a high percentage of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. You got all this stuff with COVID that is allowing people to push off rent and push off these payments. Well, that's gonna come to an end, and when that comes to an end, nobody's going to have all that back money saved up and ready to go. You're going to have people defaulting like crazy.
Yeah.
I was looking at this stat the other day. Hold on, where was it? So, America right now, there was like 183 million jobs or something like that available. 89 million of that pays under $20 an hour.
So the vast majority.
Oh yeah, the minimum wage. Yeah,
it's like 65%. Yeah, 65% of jobs pay under $20, and people are sitting there. Like I said, this is the major reason why you need to raise minimum. Oh, it's insane. This is why you need to raise minimum wage, and everybody that's against it. Well, the cost of living will go up. The cost of living's already going up. Look at like you just said earlier in this thing. Look at your corn. Look at your eggs. Look at your price of everything. It's going up from inflation. What you got to do is stop letting these guys get away with all this crime, and then it won't have to go up. They're showing that CEOs were making 351 to 1 on their average employees in most of the like major cases on like Forbes 500, and other than that, an average CEO makes around 125 to 1 of their employees. That's ridiculous, dude. Doesn't need to be that massive of a gap. And then every single year now, these last 2 years, you're getting these corporations are making record profits. This year they made record profits that were higher than they've ever made since 1950. Well, like I said, and then all they ever say is all right, we need to raise stuff from inflation, but then they get their tax cuts of trillions of dollars, but they never bring it back down. When they get their tax cuts, they keep leaving it up. So what's the point of the tax breaks? It's always supposed to be to give them more, to bring it back down, but it never seems to come back down. We're getting price gouged like fucking crazy, dude.
Absolutely fucking right, dude. As a matter of fact, I just happen to be looking at the report from the Dallas Fed right now, the most recent report for U.S. price to income ratio. So what that means is the exuberance of the price to income ratio for homes, the higher this is, the over leveraged the person buying the home is, for example. But that's not currently as bad as it should be. But here's the thing. They're literally telling us here that the delay in elevation of this exuberance is partly the consequence of the surge in real disposable income, which means the money that the Federal Reserve printed and gave Americans as a bailout, as a stimulus, I should say. Sorry, not bailout, stimulus. During the pandemic that led to the slower growth rates in the price to income ratio. Surge in disposable income, surge in money printing from the Federal Reserve is mostly associated with pandemic-related fiscal and monetary stimulus efforts and reduced household consumption arising from mobility restrictions and lockdowns. So people were getting stimulus money and spending less of it because they were locked down. What else do they go on to say? Here is where they're telling us exactly what they don't say on the news, but they're telling us flat out right now. Read this directly from the Federal Reserve. I quote, if disposable income increases turns out to be transitory, as fiscal stimulus wanes, the Federal Reserve reverses its accommodative monetary policy, recent patterns in the price to income ratio may prove a less useful measure of housing affordability. Such transitory increases in disposable income are not strong determinants of long-term housing investments. Thus, the price to income ratio measure alone may produce overly conservative results when identifying housing market bubbles. English, AMC Bigums, you want to tell them what the fuck this means, or should I? Pantheon, any one of you guys?
They're being honest for the first time.
Yes. They're telling us that if the word transitory, replace that with temporary. If disposable income increases turn out to be transitory, which they are because there's no more stimulus, and as fiscal stimulus wanes, blah, 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 and people have less income because of inflation, and the Federal Reserve reverses its accommodative monetary policy, which means they will no longer be quantitative easing as much as they were, even though, like MC Bigums just told us, the Federal Reserve just purchased $40 billion mortgage-backed securities, right? Meanwhile, they sold $98 billion in assets in 1 month. It's nothing for a $9 trillion balance sheet that will take almost 10 years to pay off. Actually, if they weren't buying $40 billion worth, it would take 10 years to fucking pay off. At that rate, it'll never happen.
And don't forget to tell them that almost 2.8 trillion of that now is mortgage-backed securities. So they're already holding the housing market up. They've been for a while.
Yeah. They've been for a long time, since after 08, basically since 2010 and everything. They've been popping it up and pumping money into it. Tell us that the patterns in this ratio prove a less useful measure of housing affordability. It's telling us that this chart is bullshit and this number's higher than it actually should be because this crap, the stimulus, is actually transitory. And you don't have more disposable income now than you did in the past because we've proven that from the Bureau of Economic Analysis reports that we've reviewed every single fucking quarter. Americans, the first quarter of 2021 had $4.6 trillion in their savings. And as of the first quarter of 2022, Americans had $1.5 trillion in savings. So basically 2/3 of all American savings is gone. And don't be like, oh, does stocks and bonds and AMC investments and GameStop investments count? No, those are not considered savings. Those are considered risky investments.
Hey, boys, I'm going to hop off. Boss, thank you so much for facilitating this. AMC Bigums, love you. Randall, love you. Edward, love you. Everybody listening, thank you so much. It's such a beautiful movement. We're all trying to change our lives. So let's do this again soon, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Later,
Thanks
Jackson.
for
Have a good
coming,
night, man.
Jackson.
You know, brother. Make sure you guys go check out Jackson Hunter's Twitter and YouTube. He's got a lot of
Thanks.
GameStop and AMC information that we don't always. Well, we cover some of it, but he knows a lot about the crypto markets, AMC and GameStop, that we sometimes don't touch on. So it's definitely good to check him out as well. Don't forget to make sure you guys check out AMC Bigums on YouTube and Twitter, as well as Edward Britchick on Twitter, and my guy Pantheon AMC on YouTube and Twitter as well. Go drop a subscribe. You might learn something. You get some free information, some information that might just change your life.
And that's the thing too, like you were saying with the government, man. It seems like they use BlackRock as well as their own weapon. I mean, they're also buying up all the houses. And then what it turns out, it seems like, is Vanguard is the weapon of the corporations. As you can see, they're now trying to buy Twitter and get Elon out of that bid. So, said man, it's crazy how many people are actually against us right now.
Oh, can we mention how Goldman, like I was talking about this, Goldman releases the article to sell at 30, right? When Vanguard starts buying. Like, what?
Yeah, it's insane.
Mass conflict of interest, and their banks is just like an instrument for Vanguard and Vanguard and BlackRock.
Why don't you explain that briefly to people that might not know, if you can?
So I mean, they do this all the time. They do this with all different securities and stocks. Well, I mean, Jim Cramer was always doing this all the time. It's like if you want an institution to basically buy at a cheaper price, right? You release an article and say why it's going down, so people sell their position, so it's cheaper for the institutions to get in. It's exactly what Goldman did. They're like, hey, it's worth $30 for on Twitter. You should sell. And then all of a sudden, well, Vanguard releases and they get a 10% position. I didn't tweet this out. I was just speaking with people privately on this.
That's
But
cool.
at the same time, like Vanguard starts buying and increases their stake to pass Elon. That doesn't make any sense at all, unless, of course, it's a battle of power and, of speech on Twitter, because they use it for midterm elections. They use it for all different election and obviously censorship of speech and all that stuff. So of course they want to beat Elon. Don't not give him control. Just look at how much they're fighting for a guy like he's like giving a stake to benefit the shareholders, and then he's exposing. Well, look at the board of directors on Twitter. What kind of conflict, what kind of interest do they actually have? And it's not for freedom of speech. It is to control.
It's 100% the control and for freedom of speech. See, the thing is you got to think of how much stuff would be on Twitter and how much stuff if these 5 media companies didn't own everything, how much stuff would be exposed. The way they control everything, the way this game works, the way the 1% gets away with everything. They control the media, so nobody covers what they don't want them to cover. When we start showing you guys stuff they don't want us to see, what do? Oh, you're shadow banned. Could you imagine if nobody was shadow banned?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, Time Warner Cable, they're all owned by BlackRock in one way or another. Pfizer, Merck, Bank of America.
And then today I found out Apollo Global Management owns Yahoo, and now they're trying to get in. They're trying to get on a bid for Twitter as well. For everybody.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You guys seen that video where it's bundled of all the videos that are like sponsored by Pfizer, like 45 of them. Why do you need to sponsor a thing that you're like if the thing is benefiting people? Why are you trying to sponsor it and push it down people's throat unless it doesn't work? You know. The whole thing is backed by institutions and backed by people who are trying to make money. Just like ever since the pandemic hit, they were literally trying to make like a global economical wealth for these institutions. I mean, Amazon was the biggest profitable firm since the pandemic, like, and while all the small businesses were being shut down. How is that even like that to me is the biggest like the crime of all, basically. Just shut down every single business that was, small business that they were being profitable, they were growing, and all of a sudden a lockdown. Boom, you can't do your business. Like New York was the biggest example of this. They just shut people down
Yep.
and put
So
them out
many
of business.
places: New York, LA, Chicago,
Yep.
and many other places in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, China, you name it. Globally, the middle class is crushed. Globally, mom and pop businesses were been and are being destroyed. And you can watch many people out there, on YouTube and Rumble and many other platforms. You'll probably get a lot better fucking news than you will directly from watching, something on your mainstream media. Why? Because companies like BlackRock don't have your best interest at heart. And they make decisions based on money, not your well-being, not your health, not your freedom, nothing.
No, and like you're saying, all those people got closed down, so you had nowhere else to go but these big corporations. And what did they do instantly? Oh, we got to raise prices, inflation. Oh, we got to raise prices, COVID. Oh, the supplies are gone. They're all out to get us, dude. We found out these corporations have more power and more money than nations combined. Do you know that they have more money? These corporations have more money than the entire United States. Do you think they don't have more influence than any of you guys can imagine?
People fail to realize that the Fed presidents and corporations are the ones that make the decisions for the United States government, politicians, not the other way around.
And this is why it's so important, man. This is why it's so important, this Twitter battle. This is why you got Vanguard. This is why you got them bringing out everybody, all the big weapons, because it just takes one internet site, one thing of free, which is finally free to get information out, and it'll collapse the whole system. The reason that they can control it all is they control every single bit of information you guys see. And the second somebody doesn't agree with them, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. Oh, he's a leftist. He's a rightist. They got you guys fighting each other on the stupidest stuff in the world, and it doesn't even matter in the end of the day. You got people literally thinking that there's red and blue and that it matters. None of them. You guys, what do they get paid in their civil office? Maybe 100,000, 200,000 for doing their duty.
$1 million at best,
Not even. There's not even like anything that gives that, dude.
Being generous, though. Right? Being generous.
Yeah.
So without insider trading, how did they go from under $250,000 a year salary to being worth $63 million or $143 million like Nancy Pelosi and Gary Gensler and other people? Not to be exact, just throwing estimates from what I've last seen.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying though that you gotta look at it this way: the American people, we pay them a couple 100,000. These corporations in the back end, they're paying them millions. Who do you think they're voting for?
And where do you think they're putting their money before wheat futures skyrocket to all-time highs?
They make the laws, they make this, they make that. Like I said, they own the news. If they want an event, if they got some stock going, hey, now we need an event on TV. We don't even know if these are real events in the end of the day. Maybe they just needed a stock to push and they played some videos. You don't know. Like I said, that's what's screwed up. We don't know what's really true or what's false. All you know is what that reporter says and who's paying that reporter, who's paying that politician. Think of this. How many politicians have you heard in the last 25 years, 30 years? How many of them have promised, I don't know, let's say about 15 to 20 things when they went into office? How many of them accomplished about one? Two of them. Almost 90% of them. And 90% of their entire, running is, I'm going to do this, and it's all lies. And then when they don't do it, nothing happens to them. It's whatever they need to say to get in, to get those payments from the big corporations, to pass the laws, because in the end of the day, the corporations, as you guys can see, own more power than the government. That's why the Doge is going after Elon instead of the real people and the real problems.
Yep. And they're acting so fast because they're being exposed. And
Exactly.
Actually, and it's funny because I feel like Elon, sent them a trap, and they fell for it. Like to them, they shouldn't act on it if they were smart, but they fell for the trap. They literally showed that they can move and actually change in a single day if they were forced to. And that's exactly it. Like they're showing how corrupt they are.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if you follow Lisa. She used to work at the SEC, but she
Yeah, I
talked
follow
about
her.
yeah, she talked about how anytime she would get a case going, she'd work real hard, spend hundreds of hours on this case. She'd go bring it up to him, be like, "I got these guys dead to right," and all of a sudden, next thing you notice, it wouldn't be her boss, but higher ups would just put it to rest. Like I said, it's all these politicians. This is what I'm saying, man. Like, these guys have no choice in the end of the day, because if you look at the pie, they own all of it. There's not that much left to go around, and if you keep raising prices, people aren't going to have literally anything. And now, once you start raising price in food, guess when people start to riot and go nuts and revolt? Is when they can't eat and they have no choice but to feed their kids. They're going to do whatever they got to do. So
Yep.
they have no choice but to go, all right, either we need to distribute this wealth a little bit, give it back to them. We either need to print again, or, like I said, you have no choice. We're going to revolt. That's it. Like I said, we all need to start thinking about, I mean, think about the crimes they're committing against you, your kids. Like you said, your future, your kids, all of this. They've stolen, if you guys look up Social Security right now, by the time all of you listening are going to retire, I hope you don't plan on having any Social Security, because that'll be gone. Like I said, they've stolen every single penny they can possibly take, and then they funnel it right to the Cayman Islands. And this is the problem. This is why I'm telling everybody, the United States will collapse no matter what. Why?
Yep.
Because when you have the 1% and they're taking trillions out and they're taking all the money, you closed all these mom and pop shops, you destroying your middle class, and now you have just the poor. Who's putting money back into the economy? Because the rich aren't. They're hiding it. They're hoarding it. They're doing everything they can do to get tax breaks and not pay into the economy. So now you have what's left of the middle class and what's all your poor class, which is now like 80% of your citizens at this point. How much money can they really put back in the economy? You have nobody putting it in, but you have billions and billions being funneled out a day. It's going to collapse. There's no way that's sustainable.
You're right, Biggum. You're right. And I actually have been tracking some of the offshoring stuff if you're interested in it.
Well, I'm always, any information, man, you can always send me stuff. I love looking at stuff.
All right, I'll send it to you.
Like I said, now they've stolen the dollar so much, they've destroyed the currency, and that's the problem. It's a fiat currency. So what are they doing? They're looking at the digital dollar. Well, what's that in reality? The digital dollar is just more control over us. Why? Because if we don't like what they have to say, if we don't cooperate, if we do what the truckers did in Canada, if you go against your corporation, Amazon, any of these companies, guess what they'll do? They'll just shut your money off. You'll have nothing. You'll have no choice but to come back to work, or you won't have a single penny to your name. That's why they want to put it all digital, because in the end of the day, if you have money, real currency, paper money in your hand, what can they do about it? Until you get rid of it, they can't take it from you. And so the problem with this digital dollar also, it's like, okay, so we're putting it in the hands of the bank. This is their pro that they say, and this makes no sense. All right, so they go, well, if we do the digital dollar, you won't need bank transactions, and banks won't be involved. They won't need to be involved because it'll be a person-to-person transaction, and it won't have to run through the bank system first. Which, okay, that makes sense. But then the next thing you notice, guess what? They're giving it to the banks. The banks are going to be in control of everything. And who the fuck's going to watch them again? And be like, all right, let's make sure that, all these dollars are really there. They're going to end up doing, naked credit default. It's going to be the same shit. They're going to be able to do what they did to this dollar and short it the same way. And then what are you going to do? Now you're going to be 100% reliant on the banks, who are already the problem to everything in the stock market and in the United States in general. We also find out, like you were saying with the movie thing. So all these guys are laundering money for cartel. We find out that these bankers, they're linked back to the last 15 years on the biggest drug busts, all of them. And each one of them, we're talking about, JP Morgan brought in 20 tons of cocaine. It was $1.3 billion worth of cocaine. What the hell does that sell for on the street? Think about that. They're the biggest drug dealers you can find. And they're allowing all this, and all they're doing is taking money. And then the Pandora Papers come out. It proves all this. It proves all these people. And what happened? Nothing. Nobody cared. Did any of these guys get arrested? No. All these people get exposed for these crimes that should be, you're going to jail for life, or you should be executed, or this should be treason against your country. Tell me what terrorist organization has hurt the United States more than short sellers in the end of the day. You've taken trillions and trillions out of the economy. Trillions. You've literally collapsed the economy, and you're walking free. You're literally getting caught sex trafficking, these private islands, pedophile shit, like disgusting, fucked up, disgusting shit, dude. And what's happening to them? They're walking the street the next day smiling and laughing about it, clean champagne. That was $12,000 champagne. Like I said, it's so fucked up, dude.
Talk about Project Bluebeam.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And like people have seen these politicians and they're like approach them in public, you disgusting rats. Like these people know. Like there's one guy that got caught. He was of I think I forgot which state it was. But yeah, he literally saw like one of the corrupt politicians like, you can't do it like this in front of public now, can you? Like talk about pedophile stuff. It's like I would smack you, but I'm in front of you. You have your daughter with you. It's just so bad. Like these people, they're walking hypocrites. They're walking evil, evil flesh, man. Like creatures that have absolutely no remorse, nothing for people. They care about only themselves.
And then they have no punishment, dude. It's a slap on the wrist every time. Here's a $50,000 fine, or like I said, you don't even go to prison, or they get like probation and shit for this. You can't have a blue collar and white collar crime depending on your money. You can't have a judicial system where it goes, all right, if you can afford a really good lawyer, we'll let you get out of it. If you can afford a lawyer that will just keep pushing it back, so the courts just eventually go, fuck it, let's just settle out for nothing. Where we don't have that ability. Like I said, you can't have two different type of systems for people based on wealth. It will never work. Crime is crime, dude. If you're touching a child, I don't give a fuck what you have. If you touch a child, you should be shot in the fucking head. That's the most fucked up thing in the world, dude.
Yeah, and that's what it was back in history. Like people, people who even stolen, they had their fingers cut off so they wouldn't steal again. There was no mercy for anybody, no matter how much they made. It was literally law is law. Like it's not. It doesn't. It doesn't precursor off of how much you make. That's not how it works.
Let me jump in and just circle back to Bigham's point on the digital currencies. We've got a question in the comments here from Chase, and the question is, for everyone, is there really a difference between the new digital dollar currency and the current digital dollar in terms of mobile banking? I feel like both are just numbers on a screen. I'd like to address that question. Earlier, Bigham's brought up the point of what happened in Canada with the truckers. What that did is it made the government in Canada enact the Emergencies Act for the first time in the history of our country. And this is important. It'll circle back to the US, guys. So when they invoked the Emergencies Act, and by the way, on 9/11, when planes were being grounded everywhere, Canada did not invoke the Emergencies Act, but they did for truckers. And once that was enacted, they put a rule in that said, now the banks in Canada have every ability to freeze all of your money if they feel that you have said something that the government does not agree with, and there's no repercussions. You cannot sue them. There's full indemnity that they can hold it for up to, I believe it was 9 months. And they don't have to give it back to you, and they can hold it that entire time. So let me just point out back to your question, Chase. What's the difference? They couldn't freeze your bank until they put in an emergency act and then put that rule into effect. Now, the emergency act came off, but they've left that rule in. What's the difference is an actual Fed-backed currency digital dollar, they could shut off at any time without having to invoke some kind of emergency act to put that rule in place. That's the difference. Just like Bigham said, it's about control.
And for what reason, whatever reason they see
that is
fit.
Like straight up communism, what Trudeau did.
Oh, exactly.
Everybody hates this guy.
And that's the thing, too.
Everybody hates this guy. Everybody knows what he did.
And that's the thing. If you have paper money, like if those truckers actually had paper money, they would actually have been able to survive. That's the difference.
Exactly. If you have paper money, they can't manage or know what you have or what you're spending it on. If you've got the digital currency, they can know exactly what you're spending the money on. Is it been pre-approved? They could shut it down at any point, and they don't have to go through a separate step of going to the banks to have them do it through some, variation of the law. So that's the main difference, Chase, between I just thought that was a question worth mentioning.
And on top of that, so like, all right, let's say two on top of this is another major thing that this will change. So, all right, let's say there's people out there that get paid cash for whatever reason. Well, that'll go to an end. Remember, they want to know every $600. Well, if you do every transaction is digital, they'll know every single thing. Let's say you want to go, for all you people that like drugs, you want to go get 40, 50, 60 bucks worth of drugs. Well, they'll know what's going on. Like I said, there'll be so many different things that they can track. Like you said, they can stop it for any reason, because you're gonna sign some automated thing. 99.9% of you aren't even gonna read it. You're just gonna hit I accept, and what you're really accepting is basically control of your money.
I mean, this is not a religious thing, but this connects to what I've been talking about in terms of Mark of the Beast, which is related to God, but they're really it's getting to the implementation of controlling what you buy and sell, and the technological advancement in that is the more you approach an advance in technology, the more capabilities of evil is given. So buying and selling and tracking and all that stuff on the digital, like people thought, oh, blockchain is really good. Yeah, it's really good, but people you are going to use it for evil, and they're going to abuse it, especially those people who are the elite and people in power. So we're heading to that crazy, crazy scenario, and people don't see it. Well, I hope they see it now.
And speaking of blockchain, have you noticed that all of the other articles on what Boss has up on the screen, the digital dollar for Project Lithium, all the other articles brought up about this talk about how it's on blockchain. But then when you look at the definitions, they actually define blockchain as distributed ledger technology, which are two very different things. They basically want you to think it's blockchain, to think it's like Bitcoin, so you think it's decentralized. But in fact, it's not, and it's very much controlled. That's something that you got to look in the definitions to see exactly what they're getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the CDC too, like you were saying, man, this is all about tracking every single thing. Imagine if like you go mow a lawn for $20. Well, the government, they got to know about that. Let's say you guys go sell drugs. Well, the government, they got to know about that. It's all about being able to track every single penny you guys spend and being able to tax you on it. Like I said, it will change a lot about your life that you don't really realize.
Add to exactly what you guys just said. Think of it this way: if you have a tax bill at the end of the year and you owe X amount, the government's not going to wait for you to send that to them. If they feel like it's been too long, they're going to take it straight out of your bank account. If you owe any bills to a debtor, the government could rule against you and take anything that you have immediately at any point.
If you have a tip job, they're going to know every single tip. So I know a lot of people that are waiters and like delivery drivers and stuff, they don't claim all of the money they get because they don't make enough anyways, and they don't want to pay taxes on all of that, because anytime they get cash tips, they charge you an extra percentage on that cash tip. So people like waiters, like anyone, those types of jobs, they will be affected drastically by this as well.
Oh, it's happening on Venmo and Cash App. They just implemented that recently to track all the donate, all the like all the tipping. Like it's affecting like my mom's business too. But all the tippings that people obtain, whether it's a gift, whether it's a reward, whether it's people just giving it freely, the government literally wants to own every part. They want to have every piece of the cake from anything anybody gives, even if it's a gift. That's how insane and disgusting and evil they are. These are these are the things that are like hellbound. Like it's just so utterly evil and disgusting and demonic to such an extent. It's undeniable.
Yeah, they spend more time trying to figure out how to keep going, hide what's happening, than just fix the problem, which is so easy. Like I said, think of how much money we have spent on the war on drugs. When it turns out all you need to do is just arrest the fucking bankers, and you would have took out how many tons of drugs. If they got caught sending one time with 20 tons of cocaine, trust me, they've ran way more than that. And that was one ship. How many didn't get caught?
Right.
Yep.
You're talking hundreds and hundreds of tons that came from just one bank. What about the other couple banks?
You know this from the Pandora Papers, the Panama Papers. They all show many, many people. And you know what, Bigums, to your point, you were absolutely right earlier. I think one guy so far has been convicted of a crime and sentenced to jail time. I think Lo Jack Toe, I believe his name is. They call him Joe, from the Malaysian 1MDB scandal. He's the only person that's been charged of any wrongdoing from what it really seems like of any importance.
Yeah, you're
For
talking
the
about
most
the
part,
Pandora
it's been-
Papers?
Yeah.
It's like 30
it was just one
people.
guy. It was one guy.
Yeah, just yeah.
Yeah,
More
but
people that
we
got caught
gotta
today.
give 10% to the big guy, remember.
And then who was that
It's not
Maxwell
great.
fucking dude or whatever that got caught 90 days ago? No one on his list got fucking arrested or anything. Like I said,
one thing,
Crazy.
go ahead.
I mean to cut you off, but you know what? If you guys don't mind, I would like to talk about something while we're still here for everybody who's been hanging out with us here this whole time. You guys know that so far, from what I know, the biggest short squeeze of the last century reached around $33,000 per share in today's equivalent. To the best of my knowledge, that was Northern Pacific shares, which rose to about $1,000 a share in 1901. And in 1901, $1,000 a share is the equivalent of it being $33,824 a share today, which was an increase of 3,282%, which is pretty fucking solid. Northern Pacific actually cut them a deal and settled with them for $160 a share, kind of like Volkswagen settled for $1,000 a share a couple years ago. But the difference is Volkswagen and Northern Pacific, those stocks were owned by corporations and a board of directors that had to do what's best for the company and what was the least risky. Whereas over 4 billion investors are invested in stocks like in AMC, for example, and then billions more are in GameStop. There's a very small float of shares available for both of them, and a large amount of evidence that the communities have compiled over the last couple of years against to show the proof of the synthetic shares, rehypothecations, the shorts marked as long, the married puts and divorced puts that are used to hide failures to deliver as that are used to hide short interest as failures to deliver. In the future, the futures and swaps derivatives contracts that are used and abused to the tune of quadrillions of dollars, over $1.4 quadrillion in derivatives globally exist, over $426 trillion in derivatives just for U.S. banks and shadow banks exist as well. So we've got a massive issue that we've had with printing a ridiculous amount of money. And I was wondering if any of you guys, Pantheon, AMC Bigums, Edward, or anybody want to jump in and kind of tell me, what do you think, based off what we know off the synthetics, the shares on AMC and GameStop, where could you possibly see a stock during all the volatility that we've been talking about over the last several months, and particularly for the last couple of hours? Where could you see stock like AMC, GameStop going as far as theoretical share price, regardless of market cap? Because we know that doesn't matter during a short squeeze, because the billions, tens of billions, if not, shares have been sold, exceeding the float, in my opinion, for AMC, and then probably several billion as well for GameStop, which has an even smaller float. So proportionally, it's an even greater number. You guys want to jump in and tell me, not price predictions, what would you not be surprised to see? Because I'll tell you this much. I wouldn't be surprised to see AMC hit a minimum of like 10 to 12 grand. Easy, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised to see GameStop hit 20 to 30, 40 grand. I would just be like, that's it? I thought it'd go higher. You know? What do you guys think? You know, and again, this is not financial advice, just a little speculation.
I'm gonna be short. Just apart from all the calculations I tried to do, there's just so many different variations. But I came to an interesting number to about 12,678 for AMC, and that is just factoring in previous runs and the factors between mathematics, counting the runs from 191 to 2580 that happened in January, and then from the lows in 12 to June, which happened to be 7726 that happened either pre-market or after hours. I don't remember. But even today, we ended with 63.35 short volume percent of the whole volume. Every day, AMC is traded at 60% short volume. Like we've passed the even possibilities of being over the float. Like we've bought the float so many times over, it is beyond. And to see this constantly being up 60% short volume, I mean, they're just printing so much synthetics, and like you've said, the market cap doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a mattering. It's gonna matter how much has to be bought back. The market cap is just whatever calculation accounts as how much has been purchased into the company or into the stock security. But in my opinion, the synthetics are beyond. Like I've said, there's probably about 65 billion synthetics on AMC alone. I'm pretty sure they've already passed that. They're probably past 100 billion with how much options and swaps and all this stuff is being manipulated on AMC. Obviously, this is theoretical. I can't prove this on paper, but observing like the data and how much has been manipulated for ever since the buy button was removed, and even previous since 2013, it's been in a constant like just Wyckoff distribution, and then you have these other periods that are like running. It's crazy to me how the stock market is this manipulated. So that's just what my number comes down to. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it hits 12,678. It would surprise me if it be like crazy higher. Like obviously people are saying 100K. I don't know. I think time will tell, and there's a lot of things have to happen for this play to happen. For this kind of price, firms have to be liquidated, defaulting has to happen, crash has to occur. There's a lot of things that like for the dominoes to fall for this to for this to play out, because we're holding, and it's not we're not like big corporations like what happened with Volkswagen, but we're the people fighting against the big institutions, big corporations that have been doing fraud and manipulation for years on AMC, on GME, on all these meme basket stocks, costs, S&L, all these other. Everything's a big short, and if they collapse and are liquidated, we'll get our prices.
Nice.
You think about GameStop? Could you see being a
Oh, past
theoretical
20K
position for it?
theoretically. Yeah, past 20K theoretically, easily.
You think about those people that think it won't get past 300 or 500 or $1,000 a share.
That's silly. That's so
Exactly.
stupidly silly to me.
I wouldn't have
If
been
you
so kind about it.
if you see GME run from 12 from it was like $7 to 483, you think it's not gonna do it again? I mean, you have to be an absolute like you have to be stupid to not believe that.
I have to agree. When retail owns the float so many times over, and there's so many millions of people, many of them have 3x, 4x, 5x shares. You've got guys like what's his name, Jim Pulte from Pulte Homes, recently buying 100 grand worth of GameStop, for example, and just people.
And it didn't go up; it
running
went
out.
down.
Yeah, right. Jon Stewart and shit, and all sorts of celebrities are talking about AMC and GameStop, and next thing you know, that share ownership and that you're missing out is going to really kick up even further, and 4 million is going to possibly turn into 5 million and possibly even 6 million. And the market maker, as my man AMC Bigums and Pantheon love to say, is just going to create or synthetic shares in the name of liquidity, and it's all
Yep.
fucking legal. And guess what? Because of that, we're all gonna be so fucking rich.
Oh yeah.
So goddamn rich.
Fucking know it. Get the
We're
fucking
in the
money
end
printer
game.
out, Jerome Powell.
Yeah, we're in the end game, and it's only time. That's it. It's only time.
Inevitable.
Make sure you guys check out AMC Bigums on YouTube and Twitter. Check out Edward Britchick on Twitter for sure. Check out my man Pantheon AMC on YouTube. Check out who else we were hanging out with, Jackson Hunter, with awesome information on YouTube and Twitter as well. Did I miss anybody? I'm sorry if I did. Just had so much freaking awesome people in here today. Not to mention my man Cash Money. You are the fucking man. You are a rock star. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for letting me be.
Man, it wouldn't be the Cash Cartel without you. I'll tell you that much. Wrap it up with a fucking song. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. Let's go, my Chicago Bulls.
Let's freaking go.